welcome back to Feed the Beast Stoneblock 4. I'm Bumstar, and last episode we spent way more time setting up Fissile Fuel than expected. Today we're finally going to get the reward for all that work. In this episode we're building our fission reactor, getting nuclear waste production online, and then taking a step further by pulling power from it using a turbine. This is some serious late game Mekanism tech, so there's a lot that can go wrong. But if everything works, we'll have both nuclear processing and a massive new power source. So let's jump in and hope nothing explodes. So building a fission reactor actually isn't too difficult. You want to set up all the patterns to craft these because it takes a while to craft it all. But once you have that set up, you're going to want to take a look by right-clicking on any of the fission blocks, and then you'll have this, the building fission reactor. And you can set up how big or how small you want it, as well as the burn rate. And you can see here that this is going to tell you a warning with the temperature. So you can turn that burn rate down until it's no longer yellow. So at a burn rate of 717, we should be able to run this no problem at an 18 by 18 by 18, which is the biggest that I can go. You can also turn on and off use reactor glass. And this will tell you a general amount of how many pieces you're going to need. I've found that I've never actually been able to get this to line up for the exact amount, but we'll still use this anyway, just to see if we can make it. So we've got a ton of glass and a ton of the casings made, and that took quite a while. We are going to make this as an 18 by 18. So let's go ahead and put it in this corner here and go 18 long. And then just double check to make sure that's the right length. All right, so that's 18 long. And then what we can do is use our diamond stick or any construction stick and use that to finish off the floor here. And I think we can use reactor glass if we wanted to. But the big thing that you need to keep in mind is all edges need to be done with the fission reactor casing, and the reactor glass can be inside. So that's what we're going to do. And we're just going to do the casing on the bottom to be safe. So this is going to be a rather large reactor. So let's go ahead and go 18 tall. And now what we can do to make this a little easier is if we come to the top here and we grab our building gadget, we can then come and point to the corners, and those should build exactly at this length. So then we're just going to make a box. And we have all of our casing down. You're going to want to be careful because you are going to get mobs that spawn in this. Because it's such a big block, it's going to create dark zones. So probably worth putting some lights down to try and prevent that from happening. So now we're going to need fission fuel assemblies. And what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to make a checkered pattern with these to fill the entire inside like so. So what I like to do is set up the bottom layer of the pattern throughout the whole thing, and then we will use the construction stick to bring them all up. And you can also use the build gadget to do this as well. I'll show you both of them. And there we go, we have this all down. So now what we can do is we can shift right click on this and then set this to surface at its max range. And as you can see, it's going to do the entire area and almost get every single one. We are going to miss out on a couple, or we can use the build stick with this in our offhand. And that should bring those all up. Yeah, but it's actually less area. And just make sure it is all covered. Looks like it. Okay, as long as we have enough of them, it should do each layer. We are missing a couple there because I was in the way. And then we're going to leave a 1 block gap between the casings at the top and this, because we're going to need to put the control rods on this. So just give this a look to make sure that you have this filled up, because you don't want to have this mess up at all. And now that we have the control rods, we can do the exact same thing with those. And just make sure they're in your offhand. And that should cover the entire top. Perfect. And then the last thing we're going to do is grab out our casing. And this is just the last thing for the top here. But you want to then cover the top with the casing. Our last step here is to fill this entire side and the other 3 sides with reactor glass. And we're just going to go ahead and use our build tool to do that. And as soon as we finish up this last bit, we should see this complete. Maybe not because we don't have the ports. Yeah, so we don't have the ports yet. So let's grab those. We're going to need 4 reactor ports. So let's put 1 here, 1 here, and see that just completed, but we're going to need to put 2 more down. So 1 there, and we'll put 1 right here. So when it does that little red thing, that means it's complete. You should be able to right click it to get this screen. If the screen's not popping up, that means something with your reactor has been messed up and you're going to need to check it out. So now do not activate this until you have everything else set up. Because if you don't have things set up correctly, this can explode and cause radiation and do damage, and that's why we're building it inside of this cube instead of directly in our base, because I don't want to blow our base up, at least not yet. So you're going to need your configuration tool, and if you shift right click on the reactor ports, they will change. So we're going to have our 2 inputs over here. One of these is going to be for fissile fuel and the other one is going to be for coolant. And then over here, we're going to have our waste output here. And then we're going to set up our output coolant here. And this is what's going to connect to our turbine to give us some extra power, while this is going to allow us to store waste. And that's really the main reason we're doing this. So then over here, we need to set up our import for fissile fuel and our import for coolant. And I think we're just going to do water. But part of the issue that I run into with this pack, with looking into this, is normally I use integrated dynamics to push the water in because it's the fastest way to put water in. I really haven't looked at any other mods to push water out for something like this because I haven't had to. So that's kind of what we need to figure out, is how are we getting the water into our fission reactor at a rate that allows this to run without burning through it. If we can't figure it out, we will just make a smaller reactor to push water in, because then we run into less of an issue. But I'm hoping that we can get this working for the 18x18, because I've never built a reactor this big, and I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out. Kind of got 3 options that I'm looking into right now, and I don't know if any of the 3 will work, but these are kind of what I'm thinking. We've got the extended ME IO port that we could put a infinite water cell into to try and push water in to see how fast that goes. We've got the hydro pumps from Zycraft machines that we could pump water through, and I think these are very, very fast. And then we also have the dynamic tank through Mekanism that I think we could fill up with water and then use something like the Super Factory Manager to attempt to push through water into our system. So I think the first one I do want to try out is the extended. So let's go ahead and see. Can I craft all of this? Easily. Let's see, how does this work? I need to figure out how to make this work, because we need to transfer to a network. So I think I need to... Why are slimes still spawning? Anyway, hopefully that Megatorch should stop the slimes from spawning. Not sure why they are, but okay. So I need to figure out how to get this to work, because I've never done this before. I think maybe... Let's try storage bus. So I've looked into this a tiny bit to see if this is something that we could use, and it looks like some people have gotten this to work. And I think we need to make a ME controller. So let's go ahead and move this. We're going to put this right here. I don't know if we need an ME controller, but we're going to certainly try. Got 5 acceleration cards going in here. This should be transferring to our network. We're just going to then push it in here. And yeah, so let's go grab an infinite water cell, which I think is from the catalyst. Yeah, let's go grab that. Oh, here it is. Uh-oh. That's our spawn point here. That's going to be a problem. We definitely do not want to come in here. Oh. Alright. Is there a way that I can set up the personal shrinking device somewhere else? Okay, there we go. Let's set our spawn point right here. So let's test that out real quick. Okay, cool. There we go. That way we don't spawn inside of a reactor, because that could be bad. All right, so now let's put our infinite water cell in here. And unfortunately, that is using a ton of power and not going very fast. So let's try a energy cell. So what we're going to try and do then is we are going to set up an energy cell right here and then put a energy acceptor on the edge and then put our gate there. And that should fill that up with power. And there we go. Look at that. That should be good. And I think if we found this isn't fast enough, we could put a couple more fusion ports around to just pump more water in this way. So let's go ahead and just make some more ports and set them up just in case we need it. And this is probably overkill, but we're going to do it anyway. And look, I mean, look how fast that fills up. That is insane. Yeah, so we have plenty of other ports here. If we find that this isn't enough, and I mean, I'm not even going to try the other ones because this seems pretty strong, to be honest. But if we find that that's not fast enough to fill this up, we will set this up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more times to just really make sure we never run out of water. So as it stands right now, we have 14,000, almost 15,000 buckets of Fissile Fuel, which means that we can start pumping Fissile Fuel into this. And to do that, I think we can just use a export bus to pump that out. So let's go ahead and, oh, we got to make sure to anchor. There we go. Let's just bring this cable up one so we don't run into that issue again. But we can always put an anchor there to keep those cables disconnected or change the color of the cables. And let's grab some acceleration cards. And as you can see, it starts to fill up pretty quickly. And this is another one where if it comes down to it, I think using something like a storage bus might actually be a better option than using an export to push those items in, because it seems pretty fast. All right, hold on, let's break this. I want to try it because I've never actually used an export or a storage bus to export items from our system before, and it actually seems pretty solid. So we're going to do insert only Fissile Fuel, and now let's connect. And we need to set this to a priority of 1,000. And I don't think that's any faster. I think that's actually just going to send, let's look. Yeah, so this Fissile Fuel isn't moving at all, which means it is only sending in the Fissile Fuel that's being currently created. So it can only move as fast as what this can go. So I think the export is going to be the way to do this. But before we do that, we actually want to, because we're going to actually lose some of this. So let's import bus real quick. Let's take this Fissile Fuel back out. And I don't know if we can, which kind of stinks, but yeah, we're going to have to deal with that. So we need to set up some more ports on this, and they are called logic adapters. We're going to need 5 of them, 4 of them, somewhere around that. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set one here, and then we're going to put the other ones down here. And when we place these in, we can right click them once this is built and set up some logic to prevent a failsafe. So if this thing starts failing, this will trigger to make the reactor stop running. So high temperature, we want to make sure high temperature is selected for 1. We want to do critical waste level, so that way if we start getting to the point where we're filling up with waste, this will stop. And then we want to do insufficient fuel, because if we run out of fuel, we want this to stop so it doesn't blow up. The last one that we could do is the damage critical. But realistically, if we're hitting damage critical, it's because one of these 3 isn't working. So we don't necessarily need it. We'll still just put it in there anyway to be safe, I guess. And then for the top one here, we want this set to activation. So when it's turned on, it's going to send a redstone signal, where if we invert it, it'll turn off. So now what we want is we want some, I think it's more red. Yeah. We want some redstone alloy wire. And then we just want to connect these up. So now this should work. And you can see it's not lit up now. But if we do this, still not lit up. Because I guess we technically do have enough fuel to do it all. But we don't have any way to store our waste yet. And with that, we want pressurized ultimate tubes from Mekanism. And you can do this one of 2 ways or both ways. There are nuclear waste bins that you can make. They can hold 512 millibuckets, and you can set these up to have the tube pump it into the waste barrels and fill it up. Or you can just use these pressurized tubes because each capacity is huge. I mean, each one has a capacity of 1 million millibuckets. So if we just kind of come up here and start making a giant chain of pressurized tubes, that's going to have a ton of capacity to just hold everything. So we're just going to kind of make a pattern on the top here to just store all of our nuclear waste here. And one thing that you do want to keep in mind with these tubes is that you do not want to break them once they start having waste. If they break while they have waste in it, that is going to cause radiation, which is going to hurt. The one little thing I've learned with these Mekanism cables is that if you're playing on a server, and I actually don't even know who I learned this from. It was from a YouTube video that I was watching. But if you're playing on a server, when you set up Mekanism cables like this, where they're kind of all connecting, it kind of creates a loop within them that causes more tick rate to flow. So it's actually better for your servers to make sure this is disconnected so they're all running in single lines instead of this kind of cross pattern. Obviously, we are not playing in a server, so I am not worried about that. We just want to create as much space as we can to store as much nuclear waste as we can. And that should be good for now. If we need more, we can always add more. So now the next thing that we want to set up is going to be the turbine. So that way we can utilize the steam that is being made in this reactor to create some power. So I think I just want to make this as big as possible. And this is definitely something that I have not done much of. And you can technically use a condenser to run that water back to the reactor. So that way you're just kind of circulating the water, but we're just not going to worry about that. So now we just want to make all of these blocks so we can make our turbine. So let's go ahead and set up patterns for all of this and craft them all and be right back. All right, so now that we have most of our blocks crafted, let's go ahead and start placing some of this down to just figure out what we're going to, how we're going to place this. Let's see here. So we are doing a 17 by 17 by 18 tall. So I'm going to go ahead and place this, I think, right about here. So there's our square, and let's go ahead and go up 18. And I definitely don't think we're going to need a turbine this big, but we're going to go for it. And kind of same thing with the reactor. It's been a very long time since I've built a turbine, so we may have to experiment with this a little bit to make sure it works. So then it looks like we can take our glass and we can fill in the entire bottom with glass, because I don't think we have any more casing, right? I think that's the extent of our casing. So let's go ahead and fill the bottom with glass. And then we need to figure out the center point. So that's the center block, and we need to put the rotors down directly in the middle. There we go. And then we want to take our turbine blades. I believe we could put 2 per. Yeah. We're going to fill that up. That's all of our turbine blades. Then we need to put the rotational complex directly on top of the turbines. And then I believe we need to put pressure dispensers all around to fill out this bottom layer. That should be, I still have 5 pressure dispensers left, but those might have just been overcrafted, but I believe that's what it should look like. So once again, just to recap, to make sure we're all on the same page here. Structural glass on the bottom. The entire thing is lined with their turbine casings as a giant square that is 17 by 17 by 18 tall. And then we have our rotors and our blades with 2 blades on each rotor in the middle of the block all the way up, connecting to the rotational complex. And then that entire level of the rotational complex is covered with pressure dispensers. I believe that's what we're supposed to do. And then the electromagnetic coil needs to go directly on top of the complex. And then we need to place them all together, just all connecting on top of this complex. They just all need to be touching. And for this build, it is only having me make 7 of them. And then we have 2 turbine valves, which I believe are going to go over here. So we're just going to put this one right here. And then we'll put this other one here. I believe this is going to be where we get our power from. And then I think we just line the walls. I don't know if anything else needs to be up here. I guess we'll see. Oh, and then we do have our turbine vent. So then I believe vents go on these 2 levels because the vent needs to be in the same level as the electromagnetic, or sorry, the rotational complex or higher. So this entire top here is going to be covered with a vent. You know what? Let's just use the build gadget for this. So we're going to put this entire top layer as vents, and I think we can just leave all of that as empty space. There we go. And then I think we just fill the rest with structural glass. So let's go ahead and do that. And we just need to put those here. Let's see, last 3 structural glass. What else am I missing? Where did I miss? Did I miss anywhere? Alright, so it looks like I have all the glass done. I have 1 more extra. Something's not completing. So out of curiosity, can these ports be here? Let's go ahead and take that. And let's put it right here. Put the glass there. Oh, that worked. Okay, so the port has to be within the vents. Okay, so if we have this running at its max capacity, we can generate 43.9 million FE. That is crazy. So what we're going to need to do then is we're going to need to take this fission reactor port and link it up over there. And I think that's pressurized cables. I think. I'm not sure what steam is considered. I would assume a chemical, but I guess we'll go ahead and try. Okay, so that's connected. So I think at this point, it's just a matter of running this and testing it. Do I have Fissile Fuel being pumped in here? I do. But I don't have a ton of Fissile Fuel. That's a problem, but that's a problem that can be fixed by running these 2 other setups that we set up last episode. And I think to do that, we're going to set this up like we were originally trying, where we have all of the power cables connecting all the other machines, and then just have the centrifuge with its own power. Because as soon as we get this running, that's going to be generating so much power that we're not going to have an issue running these anymore. Okay, so let's turn these both on. And let's see how we're doing power-wise with these both. We are definitely going down a little bit, but not a ton. I think these are all at, yeah, those are all at max capacity. So now let's turn these on. And now let's look at our power here. Our power is absolutely tanking with this turned on. So let's turn that back off, and let's turn this one off as well. All right, yeah, it is still tanking. So let's turn that off, and it immediately starts going back up. So yeah, these things just absolutely demolish power. So I guess the last thing that we have to do then is honestly just turn this on and hope for the best. Because if this blows up, this entire setup is done and I'm gonna have to redo all of this. And well, if that's the case, I am 100% doing this smaller. Because I have never, ever done a setup this big before. So once again, let's look at our results. Our burn rate cannot go above 717 with water without starting to cause some damage. So let's go to our stats here and set our current burn rate. We're just going to set it to 100, I believe. You know what? Honestly, let's set that to 0 for now. And let's activate this. Let's see, how's this doing up here? So we also need to make sure that this works. So this isn't going to do anything yet because our burn rate is set to 0. So let's set this to 100. Okay, it's turned on. And our Fissile Fuel is going down very quickly. Our coolant is absolutely keeping up, so that's good. Our turbine is now running, and we are generating a ton. But once again, our Fissile Fuel is going down, so but we have time. So let's go ahead and let's grab a flux plug, and we're going to go ahead and place that right here. Make sure that's set to our thing. Bypass limit. Is that going to work? We are getting nuclear waste now. Our fuel is still going down, which is fine. This doesn't seem to be taking any power, but maybe that's because our buffer is full. So let's go ahead and try turning this on. Alright, so we've got that turned on. It's sucking up power. Let's see, no input from here. Alright, let's turn that back off. Alright, so I'm gonna break that. And let's go ahead and put a power cable there. Okay, so that's working. And then send that to here. And let's set this up to pool. How's our fuel doing? Our fuel's still going down. We still have plenty though. So let's go ahead and turn this back on and see if we're dumping power again. Power is holding steady. Power's going back down. This thing is full of power, but for some reason it is not pulling from here. So I need to figure out what I can do to pull the power from here. Okay, no, it is saying that it's pulling that power. It's just not pulling it very fast. Let's go ahead and use the ender cables instead, because I think they have a quicker power rate. Our power is dropping rapidly. Let's turn this off. Turn that off. Turn this off. Turn that off. It is not producing any power right now. How's our fuel doing? We're about to hit 1 mil. We gotta be careful. Oh. Pool. Why is that? Oh. Okay, there we go. Now that's working, so let's go ahead and turn these back on. Okay, it's going back down. That seems like it's slower. Okay, that's going back up. How's this looking? We're running okay right now. Still a little low. Let's set the burn rate to 50. It is now producing 2 million FE a tick. That's going up. I feel like I need to break this and set it back down. So this is just not showing me anything. Okay, so steady at 2. Let's look over here. I mean, it is definitely struggling, but it is working, which means I think we might need to set up a energy cell for our applied energistics to really start taking power from all of this. But how's this doing? This is still going down. Let's see if I run. That's all on 1. That's on 1. For some reason, these ones just aren't running. It is getting some power and it is running a little bit, but maybe if we turn these off completely and just have this one running off that power. So we are still going down. So I'm going to take this burn rate and set it to 225. We're still going through that fissile fuel very quickly. Definitely got some waste coming in, so that's good. And waste is really the big thing that we wanted anyway. Okay, so this is going down a lot slower, but we still need to bring it down a lot more. Oh. We have so much fissile fuel. Why is that not being pumped in? Are we out of... No, that's there. It's just moving extremely slowly. Do we think a interface? All right, so if we set this to 4 buckets each. And then we take a regular pipe. Yeah. Right? No. Is it a chemical? Okay, there we go. Now that's pumping. So let's get this filled up and then let's take a look to see how our storage is keeping up with it. But that is way quicker. Oh, that's an import bus, not an export bus. That would be why none of our fissile fuel was going into our reactor. So now I need to test it to see, okay, is this going to be able to keep up? Yes, but how is our fissile fuel in here? Okay, so our fissile fuel is still going up and our reactor is staying steady, which means that we can increase this burn rate. Let's pump this back up to 25. It's keeping up. That's still going up. All right, let's pump this. Let's go back up to 100. Okay, our fissile fuel is still running strong. Is this keeping up? Yeah, okay, so we didn't need the interface. We just needed the export bus and not an import bus sitting there. I forgot I had that there when I was trying to remove the fissile fuel because I didn't want to waste it. And nuclear waste still going strong, so much so you can't even see it in here. It'll start giving off like particles as it fills up to show you like, hey, don't break this or else you're screwed. And then this thing is still producing 2 million FE a tick, storing 33.9 GFE. We just are limited on cables, so maybe it would be worth to run some extra cables here just to like increase the capacity in the cable. All right, that seems to be working a bit better. How's this doing? Because these things just use so much power. But it is running strong, so I wonder if we can start running this one off it as well. I'm gonna go ahead and break both these gates and put them back down. For some reason this just doesn't want to run. Let's try some different gates. Which channel do I have this on? That's 1, right? Yeah, I mean, it says 0, but I don't know. Sometimes these things are a little buggy. We do have our gargantuan flux storage. So before we leave this area, I do want to make sure that we have this all force loaded. Okay, we do. Just to make sure that this is going to run even if we're not over here. Because we don't want to have this turn off and explode. But yeah, we officially have our reactor and our turbine running and creating a ton of power. that we're going to need to make sure to utilize a bit better than what we currently are. And we're getting our nuclear waste. We didn't blow up. That's awesome. And just to recap, this setup for water is doing fantastic. We have a little sub network here, and we probably honestly didn't even need the controller, but I'm doing it anyway. A dense energy cell here with an ender gate, and then we have a ME extended IO port with a infinite water cell being directly pushed into our system, into this network. But then this network just has a storage bus with the input output mode set to insert only with water, and it is just shoving water into here as quickly as it can because it's just trying to put all of that into a different storage. And honestly, I wish I would have known about this sooner, because I feel like this would be a really good thing to use to do this instead of integrated dynamics. Because, I mean, we're already doing all of AE, so setting this up, not difficult at all. So as a bonus for the end of this episode, we're going to go ahead and craft a energy cell and set this up to start accepting energy into our AE system. And we're going to start with the 1 million ME. And we have everything we need to craft it, but this is going to take a while, because it is a lot of items. And then while we're at it, of course, we're going to do the storage housing, which is the MEFE cell housing, and we're going to need some cactuses, which we should have plenty of them. And while we're at it, we're also going to set up the gargantuan flux storage, which I think I can just put right here. Set that to our network. And just bypass limit to fill that up almost instantly. That's crazy. We're probably gonna need to make more of these, right? Just kind of fill this wall up with them to hold some storage, or we can just do what we're about to do and make it so all of our power gets pushed into our system. And our 1 million is done. So let's go ahead and grab that and put this in our cell housing here for our drive. And then we need to make a flux accessor. And you know what? We're going to make a second one of these because, well, we have 2 energy sources now. And let's go ahead and turn them into the easier to use versions. Now let's head up to our energy areas. So first thing is our power reactors. So if we put this on a ender cell like this, and then we take some cables, we run these up, that should start pulling. Let's see. Yep. We are filling up with energy. And then if we come in here, our wind turbine. Okay, before we pull from that, because we need to make sure we're keeping up with our Fissile Fuel. Because how is this running? Yeah, this is running perfectly fine. This thing's just not running at all. How are we filling up here? We're just averaging right around that 2 mil. It's just keeping up. It's pretty much enough to just keep this running, it seems. And not even all of them. I don't know. It's being weird. So let's, you know what? Let's break this. Now I'm just going to put the flux accessor right there. And we're going to go ahead and run this cable over here. Oh yeah, and that takes all of it. Holy, that is producing a lot of FE a tick. 43 million FE a tick. I mean, that is eating our steam right now, which is fine. I mean, it's not gonna stay like that forever, right? Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy how fast that's going. Okay, so with that then, now what we can do is if we come in here and if we push A over our FE, that puts this in here. It's invisible. It's called wrap generic stack, but that is our FE. So then what we can do is let's head back to our applied energistics area. And if we take some cables here, and I mean, we can really just do this anywhere, but put this here. And I think if we take another flux accessor and we put that here, and then we put a ender cell on top of it. Let's go get our ender cell. and we tell this we want to receive. Yeah, this should start filling up with all of the power from our system, right? I think that should work. Let's find out. Yeah, this is still running on 1 and it is keeping up no problem. These are, well, they're saying they're on 1, but they're just not working for some reason. I don't know. It's fine. This is keeping up fine. Yeah, we're keeping up fine with Fissile Fuel. And then this thing is only producing, and I say only producing 8 million FE a tick. That should be getting pumped directly into our system. Yeah, that's crazy. And that is going to wrap up this episode of Feed the Beast Stoneblock 4. Today, we finally got our fission reactor built and online and started producing a ton of nuclear waste. On top of that, we set up a turbine and we're pulling power directly from it with our energy accessor and putting it into our applied energistic system that we can then access through our ender gates and ender cells and flux network because we're using a mix of both. So not only are we progressing the questline, but we're solving our power problems at the same time. This puts us in a perfect position for what's coming next, using nuclear waste to push forward towards antimatter and continuing our tier 5 progression in a big way. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and hop into the Discord if you want to hang out with the community. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Later.